something is coming. Not a vague possibility, not a distant hope, something specific, something real, something that has been in preparation for longer than you know. And the person God has chosen to deliver it to you is already moving in your direction. A figure of influence, of authority, of access. Someone whose arrival in your life is not an accident and not a coincidence. Get ready, because what they are carrying has your name on it. There is a moment in the life of every chosen one that they will remember for the rest of their lives, not the moment of the blessing itself, though that moment is extraordinary. The moment just before it, the moment when something in their spirit shifts, when a quiet awareness arrives that something is about to change, when the atmosphere around their life begins to carry a different quality, a charge, an anticipation, a sense of doors that have been closed for a long time beginning to move on their hinges. When God speaks, not in words necessarily, but in that deep interior knowing that every person who has ever genuinely sought Him learns to recognize, and says, "Get ready." This is your get ready moment. I need you to understand that sentence with the weight it deserves. Get ready is not a comfort phrase. It is not spiritual encouragement designed to make a difficult season feel more bearable. It is an instruction, a specific, urgent, directional word from heaven that carries within it an implicit announcement. What you have been waiting for is no longer in the future. It is in the immediate. It is crossing from the spiritual realm into the natural one. And the distance between where it is right now and where you are is closing faster than anything your circumstances have been able to show you. Get ready is what God says right before He moves, and He is moving. Now let me tell you what I mean when I say a powerful figure, because I want to be careful here. I am not speaking of a celebrity or a famous person or someone whose name you would already know, though for some of you it may be exactly that. I am speaking of a person who carries influence in the specific area of your life where your purpose lives. A person who has access to resources, to platforms, to networks, to opportunities that you currently do not have. A person whose yes, in the context of your life and your calling, changes everything. This person exists. They are not a concept. They are not a spiritual metaphor for God's provision in abstract form. They are a real human being who is currently in a place in their own life where they are looking for something, a quality, a gift, a specific combination of depth and ability and character that they have not been able to find in the ordinary places they have been looking. And God, who sees both of you clearly, who knows what you carry and what they need, who has been positioning this connection with the patience and precision that only He possesses, God is about to bring your paths together. And when they meet you, when they encounter what you carry, when they see the gifts and the depth and the quality of who you are up close, something is going to happen in them that they did not anticipate. A recognition, a clarity, a sense of, this is exactly what I have been looking for, and I did not know it until right now. And what they offer you from that place of recognition is going to be unlike anything you could have manufactured through your own effort or strategy. But before I go deeper into what this connection looks like and how to recognize it when it arrives, I need to lay a foundation, because the most important thing about what is coming is not the opportunity itself. It is the preparation required to receive it well. Let me tell you about a pattern that appears throughout history, in Scripture, in the lives of people God has used significantly, in the stories of transformation that have changed the trajectory of families and communities and nations. The pattern of divine connection. The moment when God places two people in the same space at the right time and something that looked impossible suddenly becomes not just possible but inevitable. Joseph in prison, a forgotten man in a forgotten place. And the cupbearer of Pharaoh who would one day remember him at exactly the right moment and bring him before the most powerful man in the known world. Not because Joseph was networking strategically, not because he had engineered the connection, but because God had been building Joseph in the hidden place, and the powerful figure was the instrument God used to bring the hidden work into the light. Moses, a shepherd in the wilderness, invisible to the world that had once known him as a prince, until God sent him to stand before Pharaoh, the most powerful figure in the most powerful nation on earth. And Moses, this reluctant, self-doubting, ordinary-seeming man with a speech impediment and 40 years of obscurity behind him, stood before that figure and changed the course of history. Esther, a young woman with no political power, no official standing, no visible platform, brought before a king whose word was law. And in that meeting, in that divinely arranged encounter between someone who carried something important and someone who had the power to act on it, a nation was saved. The pattern is ancient, the pattern is consistent, and the pattern is personal. God brings his chosen ones before powerful figures at the moments when the preparation is complete and the purpose is ready to move. Not before. Not a moment before the preparation is sufficient. But also not a moment after the purpose is ready to advance. Your preparation is complete, your purpose is ready to move, and the powerful figure is already in motion toward your life. Now, I want to talk about something that is critically important for you to understand before this connection arrives. Because one of the most common ways that chosen ones miss the divine connections God sends them is not through lack of faith or lack of preparation. It is through failure to recognize. The connection arrives and it does not look the way they imagined it would look. The powerful figure does not present themselves with fanfare or with obvious markers of their significance. They arrive in an ordinary moment, sometimes in a context that seems entirely unrelated to the area of your purpose, sometimes as someone who initially seems like a passing acquaintance rather than a life-altering connection. God rarely sends the extraordinary through extraordinary packaging. He sends it through the ordinary, through the conversation that starts as small talk, through the introduction made by a mutual contact who has no idea what they are setting in motion, through the chance encounter in a space you almost did not go to at a time you almost did not show up. This is why the quality of your presence in the ordinary moments of your life matters so much right now. This is why the decision to show up fully, to engage genuinely, to bring the real version of yourself to every interaction rather than a performance of yourself, that decision has never been more important than it is in this season. Because the powerful figure who is about to present you with this opportunity will encounter you in an ordinary moment. And what they encounter in that ordinary moment will determine whether the connection deepens into what God designed it to be or passes as an unremarkable interaction that both of you forget. Be fully present. Be genuinely yourself. Carry what you carry without apology or minimization. The right person will recognize it. Now let me talk about the opportunity itself. What does an unbelievable opportunity actually mean in the context of a chosen one's life? Because that word, unbelievable, is important. It is not hyperbole. It is a specific description of the quality of what God is about to release through this connection. Unbelievable means beyond what your current circumstances suggest is possible. It means an offer that if you had described it to yourself 12 months ago, you would not have believed you could receive. Not because you lacked the ability to deserve it, but because the gap between where you were and where this opportunity positions you would have seemed too large. The jump would have seemed too significant, the elevation too sudden. This is how God works. He is not a God of incremental improvement. When his chosen ones are operating in a season of breakthrough, he is a God of suddenly. A God of suddenly places you in front of a person who has the power to compress years of slow progress into a single moment of connection, who can open a door that all of your individual effort could not have opened, who can position you in a place that your own strategy could not have reached. Unbelievable is what it looks like when God does what only God can do, and that is what is coming. But, and this is where I need you to pay very careful attention, the unbelievable opportunity is going to require something from you that comfortable seasons do not develop. It is going to require courage, real courage, the specific kind of courage that is required when you are standing in front of something larger than what you have ever held, and you must decide in real time whether you will reach for it or talk yourself out of it. Because the voice of inadequacy, the internal voice that has been with you since the earliest seasons of your life, the voice that speaks in the language of who do you think you are and you are not ready for this, and what if you fail in front of someone this important? That voice will be loudest in the moment when the opportunity is most real. It always is. The enemy does not bring his most effective weapons to the ordinary moments. He saves them for the moments that matter most. And this moment, the moment when the powerful figure extends the offer and looks at you and waits for your response. This moment matters more than most. The preparation God has been doing in you is preparation for exactly this moment, not for someone else, for you. Welcome back, chosen one. Let me continue with what heaven needs you to understand about the powerful figure who is coming and the opportunity they are carrying. There's something important I need to say about the nature of this person's role in your story, because it is possible to misunderstand divine connections in a way that creates either an unhealthy dependence or a crushing disappointment when the connection does not unfold exactly as imagined. This powerful figure is not your source. They are a channel. The distinction is everything. God is your source. He is the origin of the provision, the blessing, the opportunity, the elevation. The powerful figure is simply the instrument he has chosen to deliver it. And understanding this distinction, holding it clearly in the middle of what might be an enormously exciting and significant connection, is what allows you to receive the blessing without losing your grounding, without building your security on a human being rather than on God, without placing so much weight on the connection that if it shifts or changes or develops differently than you expected, your faith shifts and changes with it. The figure is the messenger. God is the message. Receive the messenger with gratitude and honor. Treat the connection with wisdom and care, but anchor your trust in the one who sent them, not in the person themselves. Because people, even powerful people, even people who are genuinely sent by God, are human. They have limitations. They have their own seasons and their own processes and their own moments of failing to fully carry what God intended them to carry. And a chosen one who has built their faith on a person rather than on God will be shaken by those moments in a way that a chosen one whose faith is properly anchored will not. God is sending this person to you. Trust God through this person. Now let me talk about how to position yourself in the period immediately before this connection arrives. Because positioning matters, not in a manipulative, strategic sense, but in the sense of being in the right internal and external place to receive what God is directing toward you. Internally, the posture God is asking of you right now is one of expectant openness, not anxious watching, not the exhausting, scanning vigilance of someone trying to identify and capture their breakthrough before it escapes, but the settled, confident, forward-facing openness of someone who knows the blessing is coming and has made peace with not knowing exactly when or how or through whom it will arrive. The posture of someone who has done the preparation, submitted the outcome to God, and is now simply present, fully alive, fully engaged in the current moments of their life, trusting that when the connection arrives, they will recognize it. This is a very specific and very important posture, because there are two failure modes on either side of it that the enemy is happy to push you into. The first failure mode is anxious striving, trying to force the connection, networking desperately, performing for people who might be the powerful figure rather than being genuine with them, treating every interaction as an audition and every person as a potential gatekeeper whose favor you must secure. This posture is exhausting, it is inauthentic, and it actually repels the quality of connection that God is trying to bring. Because the powerful figure that God sends is not looking for a performer. They are looking for something real. And real can only be found in a person who is not performing. The second failure mode is passive waiting, the spiritual version of doing nothing while calling it surrender. Sitting still and assuming that because God is sending the connection, you have no responsibility for being in a position to receive it. No responsibility for the quality of your character, the development of your gifts, the faithfulness of your daily work, the relationships you are currently building or neglecting. This passivity is its own form of unfaithfulness. God does not reward inaction dressed as trust. The middle way, the narrow path between anxious striving and passive waiting, is active faithfulness, doing the work that is in front of you with excellence, developing the gifts that God gave you with intentionality, building and maintaining the relationships you already have with genuine care and generosity, being present, engaged, and excellent in the ordinary moments of your life, not as a strategy to attract the powerful figure, but as an expression of who you are as a chosen one who takes their assignment seriously. The powerful figure will find you in that place. They always find you in that place. Now I want to address something that some of you are feeling right now as you listen to this. A quiet skepticism. A part of you that wants to believe what this message is saying, but that has been disappointed before. That has felt the excitement of possibility and then watched it collapse. That is believed for a connection or an opportunity or a person who would change everything, and waited and hoped and finally set down the hope because carrying it had become too heavy. I want to speak to that part of you directly. Your disappointments were real. The times you believed and did not see, the seasons you hoped and the hope was not fulfilled in the timeline you expected, the connections that seemed significant and then faded, the doors that seemed to be opening and then closed. All of it was real, and it cost you something real. Not just the specific thing that did not come through, but a piece of your capacity to hope freely, a piece of the open, unguarded expectation that you carried earlier in your life before experience taught you to be more careful with it. Heaven is not dismissing any of that. But heaven wants to give you a different frame for what those disappointments were. They were not evidence that God does not move. They were not evidence that the connections he promises are fictional. They were not evidence that you are the exception to the principle of divine provision, the one person in your generation for whom the pattern does not apply. They were preparation. Each disappointment refined your discernment. Each closed door taught you something about the difference between a door that God opened and a door that simply looked open. Each connection that faded showed you something about what a genuinely God-sent connection carries that the merely promising ones do not. Each season of unanswered hope built in you the specific quality of perseverance that allows a person to receive a significant blessing without being destroyed by it, because they have been formed through the discipline of hoping without seeing until the hoping itself has become an act of worship rather than a transaction. You are not damaged by your disappointments. You are refined by them, and the chosen one who arrives at the moment of divine connection, having been refined by disappointment, is far better equipped to steward what that connection produces than the one who arrives having never waited, never hoped without seeing, never had their faith tested and found faithful. Your waiting was not waste, it was investment. And the return on that investment and the powerful figure, the unbelievable opportunity, the sudden elevation that God is about to release in your life is going to be so clearly, so undeniably beyond anything you could have produced yourself that the only adequate response will be the one God has always been after. Complete, unreserved, fully surrendered worship. Not the worship of someone who got what they wanted. The worship of someone who finally understands in their body and their spirit and their tears and their breathless gratitude that God was faithful the entire time, that every season was seen, that every act of faithfulness in the hidden place was honored, that nothing was wasted, that the God who promised is the God who delivers, that he is exactly who he said he was, that worship is coming, and it is going to be the most real thing you have ever experienced. Now let me give you the practical instruction for the days ahead. Because heaven does not just want to stir your spirit, it wants to give you something actionable, something you can carry from this message into the real hours and days of your actual life. Here is what you do in the period between now and the arrival of the powerful figure and the unbelievable opportunity. First, write the vision. Take time in the next 24 hours to write down with as much clarity and specificity as you can manage exactly what you believe God has placed inside you. Not a general sense of it. The specific gifts, the specific direction, the specific kind of impact you are designed to have, the specific area of life or work or service where you know your purpose lives. Write it. Give it language. Because a vision that lives only as a feeling in your spirit is not yet ready to be communicated to the powerful figure when they arrive. You need to be able to speak it with clarity and conviction. And that clarity and conviction is developed in the discipline of writing it down. Second, prepare your life for the increase. In practical terms, clean up the areas of your daily life that you have been neglecting because the pressure of the current season has made maintenance feel impossible. The relationships that need attention, the habits that need addressing, the commitments you have made and not kept. Not because perfection is required, it is not, but because a life that is being actively stewarded well is a life that is in a posture of readiness, and readiness is what God is asking of you. Third, tell God you are ready. Not as a demand, not as an announcement that you have completed the checklist and he is now obligated to deliver, but as a genuine, humble, open-handed declaration of availability. Lord, I am ready. I have done the preparation you asked of me. I have held the vision and stewarded the current season and maintained my faith through the disappointments. I am ready to receive what you have prepared. I am ready to walk through the door you are opening. I am ready to meet the person you are sending. I receive it, all of it, in your timing and in your way and for your purpose. Speak those words and then live in the expectation of the answer. Because the answer is already on its way. The powerful figure is already moving. The unbelievable opportunity has already been prepared, and you, the chosen one who stayed faithful through the seasons that tested everything, are exactly who God had in mind when he set it all in motion. Get ready.